Just computer lens. So I see both of you guys have attempted the assignment that we were talking about yesterday. So let's first go through those assignments. Okay, I want to start with Anand first because Anand sent me this yesterday evening itself. Are you guys able to see this screenshot?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just try zooming it a bit. Yeah, this is a new laptop that I bought recently. I'm still trying to understand this because this is Windows. Earlier I used to have a Mac. Still अभी हाथ बिठा रहा हूँ मैं इस पे भी. All right, so this is from Anand, and these test cases are for Reynolds pen. The first one is company name of the pen clearly. So I think you wanted to write कहीं कुछ मिस हुआ है. You wanted to write कि company name should be visible clearly.
Yes, sir. As a like an example of to borrow Domino's.
Okay,
ये
good. नहीं बढ़िया, which is fine. Writing smoothly or not, ठीक है, वो आप टेस्ट करके देख लोगे. The refill fits in the pen properly. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि कोई आपने refill लिया तो वो बड़ा हो छोटा हो. Ink of the pen should not be coming out. Okay, comfortably able to hold the pen. Okay, hold the pressure while writing. Okay, I would say good attempt, Anand. And let's now also see the cases sent by Shubham. Okay, so this is the first attempt that Shubham has tried on the performance of the test cases. So how can you write with this pen? How can you write with this pen? मतलब थोड़ा सा explain करोगे कुछ शुभम इसमें?
सर परफॉर्मेंस टेस्ट केस में हम ये भी चेक करते हैं कि हम उस पेन से किस तरीके से लिख सकते हैं, बिकॉज वी आर ट्राइंग टू हम डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सरफेस पे लिखते हैं, जैसे कि पेन पेपर्स की क्वालिटी अलग अलग हो सकती है, तो उस क्राइटेरिया को पेन फुलफिल कर रहा है या नहीं, या फिर इट परफॉर्म्स इन द सेम कि हम एक ही कंटिन्यूएशन पे लिखे तो वो कितने घंटे तक पेन काम कर सकता है. तो ये हम परफॉर्मेंस टेस्ट कर सकते हैं कि कहीं रुक तो नहीं रहा है, बंद तो नहीं हो रहा है.
Verify pen nib is not damaged or destroyed after continuous writing. ठीक है. To verify how much can be written in one refill.
हाँ
ठीक है. Out of the scope test cases are saying verify pen is working in different gravity. Can you help me explain this one?
सर एक्चुअली हम बहुत सारी कंडीशंस पे ट्राई कर सकते हैं, जैसे कि जैसे ठंड के टाइम पे क्या होता है कि पेन बहुत सारे पेन ऐसे होते हैं जो जम जाते हैं, प्रॉपर वर्किंग नहीं कर सकते, तो हमारा जो प्रॉपर पेन है वो उस कंडीशन पे भी वर्क करना चाहिए. हम डिफरेंट डिफरेंट कंडीशंस पे भी सेट कर सकते हैं. जब हमारे यहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा एटमॉस्फेयर में गर्मी होती है, हम उस कंडीशन पे भी ट्राई करते हैं कि इंक ने ज्यादा रिफिल लिंक नहीं करना चाहिए, या फिर इस टाइप से हम डिफरेंट कंडीशन पे चेक कर सकते हैं.
गुड गुड. तो देखो दो चीजें हैं इसके अंदर. फर्स्ट थिंग इज शुभम, दीज आर नॉट परफॉर्मेंस टेस्ट केसेस. ठीक है, दीज आर ऑल
ओके
फंक्शनल टेस्ट केसेस. ठीक है,
ओके.
इसी के अंदर आप फंक्शनल टेस्टिंग के अंदर जो आपका ये वाला पॉइंट था, सेकंड और थर्ड, ऑन ऑन वेयर यू वर ट्राइंग टू यूज द पेन कॉन्टिन्यूअसली, वहां पे इट वुड बी अ परफॉर्मेंस केस.
ओके
ठीक है. Apart from that, I would say these two scenarios that you have thought about of using a pen in different gravity and different conditions and how you explained it, these are the cases which I call out of the box cases.
ओके.
ठीक है. So Anand, this is a learning for you. Out of the box बोले तो अपन and I was repeating myself yesterday कि you don't have to worry about the result of that test case. ठीक है. If I had to add more test cases, out of the box test cases, what I could do, I could take this pen, let's say in a satellite and drop it from the, let's say, international space station. I don't know what would happen. हो सकता है वो स्पेस में ही घूमता रहे, हो सकता है it will go down, drop on earth, and then when we find it, उसके बाद में चला कर देखो. If you're not able to find it, it is a failed test case. If you're able to find it, if it is working, it is a pass. आप ठीक है, बुर्ज खलीफा के ऊपर चढ़ गए, वहां से नीचे थ्रो कर दिया. एंड व्हाट शुभम वाज सेइंग कि गर्मियों के अंदर, सर्दियों के अंदर पेन की इंक का क्या कंडीशन रहता है, लीक होती है या इट गेट्स फ्रोजन आउट, वो आप चेक करो. मैं तो बोलता हूँ भट्टी के अंदर डाल दो, फ्रीजर के अंदर डाल के रख दो, डीप फ्रीजर में डालकर छोड़ दो, फ्राई कर दो उसको, एंड देन सी व्हाट हैपेंस. ठीक है, सो यू हैव टू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर माइंडसेट नाउ. एक्सट्रीम केसेस में चले जाओ, आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स चले जाओ. See if anybody is still waiting in the lobby. Hang on. Since Shubham also tried writing these test cases in the test case format, which is very good. Uh, so grip of the pen is what you're testing here. Expected is it should be comfortable. Actual is comfortable pass. And on the writing, you are trying to write, and you are expecting it should write smoothly. Actual भी smooth है, and it is passed, which is good. Very nice attempt. इसके अंदर थोड़ा सा टेम्पलेट का इशू है, which that is what we are going to talk about in today's session. And you can take it as another assignment for yourself, though I would be giving you a different assignment today, but you can use this assignment again uh, with the template that I show you today to rewrite your test cases. But then it is a very good attempt, Shubham.
Thank you, sir.
Very nice. Okay, so let's get back to our topic for today. Right, you guys able to see the screen, the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, so as you guys know, we are on the day 2 of the 5 days WhatsApp class. So today we are going to talk about how we create the test cases and how we complete the requirement coverage. And okay, before I get down onto this slide, can you guys explain me what is a test case? No, you that is fine, no problem.
What is a test case, right?
How do you define a test case? Yes. What is a test case?
सर टेस्ट केस को हम ऐसे डिफाइन कर सकते हैं कि दैट इट इज एन एक्टिविटी इन विच वी परफॉर्म, क्या बोल सकते हैं, मतलब सिनारियो टेस्ट सिनारियोज लिखना कि हम एक्चुअल में क्या करने वाले हैं, हम क्या परफॉर्म करने वाले हैं. दैट इज टेस्ट केस.
Okay. Okay. Half of it is right. Well, you talked about half of the half side of the test case, okay, which is fine. Anand, any attempt? Okay, no problem. So let's see what a test case is. So there are 3 parts of a test case. The first one being the test inputs. So test inputs is going to tell you, or you are going to tell the test case that this is the test data on which you are going to execute your test case. So for the same example that we were talking about yesterday, 2 plus 2. So the 2 numbers here, 2 and 2, this is our test data. These are our test inputs. On the second step here, which is on execution conditions, you are going to tell the steps that you need to perform on that particular test case in order for you to test it. So for the same example, 2 plus 2, what you would be doing here in the execution condition is, we are going to write like 1, open the calculator. Step 2, input 2 numbers, 2 and 2. Third, click on the equal to button. These are going to be the steps that you are going to perform or write in the steps of execution. Then on the expected result, you are going to write what you are expecting out of these steps as given in the requirements from the client. So in our case, 2 plus 2 we know is going to give us 4. So our expected result for this particular example would be that the calculator or the application should give me a result of 4. Since we are giving 2 and 2 as the test data. So a test case can be defined in 3 steps. The first being the test inputs, the second being the execution conditions or the steps, and third, the expected result. So it's as simple as that. आप क्या डालने वाले हो, क्या करने वाले हो उस डेटा के साथ में, और आप क्या एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हो वो डेटा आपको क्या आउटपुट देगा. This is very simple definition and understanding of what a test case is. Any questions here?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, we will see in more detail as what exactly the template of a test case looks like. And this is with an example. So how do you write a test case? So when you're writing a test case, it's more than these three steps actually. These are the highlights of a test case, but when you are writing a test case, you actually have to fill in a lot of different columns. Okay, the first thing is the test case ID. So this is a unique ID that is assigned to each test case. And before I start here, there are two ways how you can write a test case. The first way and the more followed approach is to write a test case in an Excel sheet, in a plain Excel sheet. The second way is to use a test case management tool. Test Rails is one of those good tools that you can use. Right. So when you are using a test case management tool to write your test cases, in that case, that tool automatically generates a unique test case ID for you every time you create a new test case. When you're using an Excel sheet, which is a manual process of writing a test case, you have to give your test case a unique ID yourself. So what happens with this unique ID is that you would never mix two different test cases with one single ID. So whenever a test case is failing or passing, you can clearly just call it out using the test case ID that login underscore 001 wala test case jo hai, that is failing every time. You don't have to tell ki serial number ye on this particular checklist wahan jaakar dekho. You can call it from the test case ID itself. Okay, so test case ID is the first column, which is a unique ID. And for the example here, we can say that this is one of those examples that you can use. Login underscore 001. It could be landing page underscore 001. It could be reports underscore 001. It could be anything. If you're providing this ID manually yourself, this ID can be anything of your choice. Then the second column is the test description. So it describes the functionality that your test case is going to verify. So in the example that we saw, how Shubham wrote those test cases on the pen. So Shubham wrote the description there कि वो smoothly run कर रहा है, continuously run कर रहा है, नहीं कर रहा है. So that is in a very short nutshell description. It gives you the complete insight of कि क्या ये test case क्या करने वाला है ये test case. Is it only going to, like for this example of ours, user is able to log in successfully using valid credentials. So for reading this particular test description, you would understand exactly what this test case is all about. Again, most of the times when you are very familiar with this project, when you have executed these test cases a number of times, you would only read the test description and you would automatically understand कि अच्छा ये test case में क्या क्या steps हैं. You would you will not be required to then go in and read all the test steps. You would go in directly perform it. Okay, so the test description describes the functionality that you are going to verify. Prerequisites or the preconditions. So these are the steps or the actions that you need to perform before you execute your test case. Before you execute these steps on the fourth column, these are the steps that you need to perform first. And again, this prerequisite or the precondition column is not a mandatory step. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हर टेस्ट केस के अंदर आपको प्री रिक्विजिट या प्री कंडीशन मिलेगी या आपको लिखनी है. So in some of the cases, it is good to write preconditions when your test cases steps are very lengthy. अगर आपका एक सिनेरियो आप कर रहे हो परफॉर्म दैट वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट यस्टरडे, जिसके अंदर लाइक इफ यू हैव 15 to 20 steps in that scenario, so उसको आप shorten करने के लिए you can put few of those steps in prerequisite and then keep the number of steps on the inputs to a minimum of like 7 to 8 steps, which is good. अगर आप 15 से 20 स्टेप लिखोगे वैसे ही वो आप you would probably you will skip one of those steps. So preconditions, prerequisites would mention the steps or the actions that you need to perform before you execute the test case. So for our example, user is already registered on the application. So what we're trying here is to see whether the user is able to log in or not. Login करने के लिए the precondition that we need to have here is कि user should already should have their account on the application. वो account created होगा तभी तो वो login कर पाएगा.
Yes.
That is what our precondition is. And then the fourth thing that comes here is the steps or the actions or the inputs. So this is something that would provide you steps to execute your test case. So for our example here, you see कि अपन ने क्या किया यहाँ पे एक steps और step वाले order के अंदर we have written down all the steps that we need to execute. So the first step would be to launch the URL. The second would be enter a valid username in the username field, enter a valid password in the password field, click on the login button. So these would be my steps when I'm going to execute my test case. And here you see, we have not mentioned the username and the password. What we have mentioned here is that we have to enter a valid username, enter a valid password. ठीक है, अब ये valid username और valid password क्या हो सकते हैं is going to be defined in the test data. Okay, so here you don't see a test data column, but you can add that test data column as well. So keeping the username and the password field as generic as this gives you the ability to play around with number of valid usernames and valid passwords. आपके पास में यूजर नेम्स हो सकते हैं which could be valid cases के अंदर which could be like अखिल, and then the second could be Akhil Bansal. The third could be like Akhil Bansal 001, Akhil Bansal asterisk exclamation. ये सारे valid cases हो सकते हैं आपके application के हिसाब से. So you don't have to mention each and every test input in the test case itself, in the inputs actions column itself. Rather, you can define these test data in a separate file or in a separate column altogether. So moving on, the fifth column would be the priority column. So you mentioned how critical, how important this functionality is in regards to the application. So you can categorize it between like high, medium or low, and it totally depends upon your application and how your project is configured. कहीं कहीं पर ये लोग numbers भी use करते हैं 1 2 3, कहीं पर 5 numbers system भी होता है. So it totally depends upon your project. Just to keep it simple for our understanding, मैंने यहाँ पे तीन ही अपने प्रायोरिटी स्टेटसेस लिए हैं, प्रायोरिटीज लिए हैं, हाई, मीडियम और लो. ठीक है. सो इन आवर केस, बिकॉज वी आर ट्राइंग टू लॉग इन द यूजर using a valid username and password, our test case becomes a high priority test case. In case this test case fails, a valid user would not be able to log in into the application, which is going to be critical. तो ये login होना ही होना चाहिए. तो ये test case high है अपना. Then you have the expected result. From the requirements that are given to us from the client, we draw out the expected result. In our case, the expected result here should be user should successfully log in into the application. Why he or she should be able to log in successfully into the application is because we are using a valid username and a valid password. अगर valid username valid password है तो login होना चाहिए. So that is what my expected result here is showing. Now this is a very important step. When you are writing your test cases, you are only going to write the expected result. Okay, ये expected result is something that we are drawing out from the requirements. When you are executing your test cases after the developers have developed, after the developers have coded, at that time when you are executing your test case, when you are performing these steps that we see here on the piece of code that the developers have written, that is the point when we will get to know how the application is behaving. And that is the point when you are going to mention your actual result. उससे पहले आप कर ही नहीं सकते हो. So expected is something that we pick up from the requirements कि client क्या expect कर रहा है. ठीक है, डेवलपर ने वो डेवलप कर दिया. नाउ यू आर टेस्टिंग कि डेवलपर ने ठीक से डेवलप किया कि नहीं किया. So जब आप टेस्ट कर रहे हो, that is the point when you are going to mention the actual result that the application is showing you. So that is the point when you're going to write the actual result. जब आप execute करोगे अपने steps. So in our case again, user successfully logs into the application is what we say here. ठीक है. In that case, when we see that the expected result and the actual result ये match हो रहे हैं हमारे, in that case you are going to put a result to your test case, and for our case it is going to be a pass test case. ठीक है, दूसरे केसेस के अंदर अगर सक्सेसफुली लॉगिन नहीं होता, एरर आता, हमारे को हम बोलते हैं ये फेल है बिकॉज अवर एक्सपेक्टेड एंड एक्चुअल आर नॉट मैचिंग. In case of a failure, you are going to report that failure as a defect, as a bug, and then you mention the bug ID right in the test case itself. ठीक है, वो करने से क्या होता है कि आपको पता है कि अच्छा ये वाला टेस्ट केस मैंने एग्जीक्यूट किया था, ये फेल हुआ, इसके अगेंस्ट मैंने ये वाला डिफेक्ट लॉक किया था. So at any given point of time, you can easily track between your test cases and the defect. अब आप बोलोगे ये वाला डिफेक्ट मेरा फेल हुआ था, क्या ये डिफेक्ट, क्या ये वाला मेरा टेस्ट केस फेल हुआ था, क्या मेरा ये डिफेक्ट अभी तक फिक्स हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ है? यू कैन इजीली ट्रैक इट फ्रॉम योर टेस्ट केस शीट. और वाइस वर्सा, दैट इज नोन एज अ रिवर्स और बैकवर्ड ट्रेसेबिलिटी मैट्रिक्स. कि आप बग आईडी उठाओगे एंड यू विल सी कि ये बग आईडी का टेस्ट केस पास है कि नहीं है. So on all the failure cases, you are going to mention the bug ID in the test case document itself. All right, any questions here?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
So these again, these 5 columns, 9 columns, 5 columns here, 4 columns, and 9 columns in total are a very generic or a default template of writing a test case. These are the major steps that you are going to see majority of times on a test case template, but these are not the only steps. मतलब देयर इज नथिंग लाइक कि यही है, फिक्स्ड है, हर प्रोजेक्ट में आप यही टेस्ट केस टेम्पलेट उठाओगे, ऐसा नहीं है. देयर कुड बी मोर कॉलम्स एडेड टू दिस पर्टिकुलर टेस्ट केस टेम्पलेट डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर प्रोजेक्ट. देयर मे बी some of these columns may be removed from project to project.
Okay.
ठीक है, तो इसको ऐसे मतलब लेकर नहीं चलना कि यार यही होंगे, यही पक्का यही है. दीज आर इंपॉर्टेंट, दीज आर दी मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. ये आपको मिलेंगे मिलेंगे, इसमें से कम नहीं कर सकते आप कुछ भी. इसमें ज्यादा आप कर सकते हो. इसमें टेस्ट डेटा का कॉलम भी ऐड कर सकते हो, इसमें आप एनवायरनमेंट का कॉलम भी ऐड कर सकते हो. ठीक है, इसके अंदर आप ये भी डाल सकते हो कि कौन एग्जीक्यूट करने वाला है, हु इज गोइंग टू एग्जीक्यूट दिस टेस्ट केसेस, हु इज द क्रिएटर ऑफ दिस टेस्ट केस. So there can be more columns that you can add to this particular template. All right, so when you use a test case management tool, here for your references, this is a test case management tool known as TestRail, which is a very popular tool. Rather than using an Excel sheet to write your test cases, you can use a test case management tool. Again, this depends upon the project that you are working upon. हो सकता है आपका प्रोजेक्ट सिर्फ एक्सेल शीट यूज करता हो सकता है आपका प्रोजेक्ट टेस्ट ट्रेल्स यूज करता हो. अगेन टेस्ट ट्रेल्स इज अ पेड टूल. हो सकता है आपका आपका एप्लीकेशन, आपका क्लाइंट आपको ये टेस्ट मैनेजमेंट टूल नहीं खरीद कर दे बिकॉज ऑफ द budget issues. But when you are using a test case management tool, things will still remain the same. You see this C2248, this is the unique test case ID. Verify that user is able to log in into the application using valid credentials. This is the test description. Okay, login and account is the functionality for which we are writing this particular test case. We have the preconditions here. User is already registered. We have the same steps. We have the expected result. User should be able to log in successfully. Okay, I would see the priority. Priority here is medium. It should be high. So you have the same columns altogether. If you're using an Excel sheet or you are using a test case management tool, more or less, उन दोनों का interface, उन दोनों का template, उन दोनों के fields are going to match. So this is when you are writing a test case. Again, when you're executing the test case, you will be given or presented with an actual result वाला column, wherein you are going to write कि आपकी application कैसे behave कर रही है, based on which you will take a decision whether my test case is a pass test case or a failed test case. Right? Any questions here?
No, sir.
We will see a practical. मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ. Before we go on to the questions, I'll show you a practical example of how we write a test case. You're able to see the Excel sheet, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so these are all the same. So these are the same columns that we saw on the PPT. Okay, this is when you are writing a test case in an Excel sheet. ठीक है, अपन कोई डिफरेंट एग्जांपल लेते हैं. अपन 2+2 का एग्जांपल लेते हैं. Yeah, let's take an example of something else. Let's take an example of फेसबुक का एग्जांपल लेते हैं एंड लेट्स ट्राई पोस्टिंग अ फोटो. ठीक है. द रिक्वायरमेंट मतलब हाउ दिस होल सिनेरियो वुड वर्क. वी विल फर्स्ट बी गेटिंग requirement from the client that on Facebook the user should be able to post a photo on his or her wall which should be visible to their friends. ठीक है. ये रिक्वायरमेंट है हमारे पास में. लेट वी आर जस्ट मेकिंग एन assumption here. Based on this particular requirement, let's try writing a test case. ठीक है. तो the first thing is the test case ID. So how we can name this test cases? Since we're talking about Facebook, so let's put it like FB underscore and we are posting a photo, तो post photo कर सकते हैं अपन, and it could be like again 001 or it could be like आपका दिल है तो आप 1 लिख दो. ठीक है. Again, this is something that you want to, how you want to follow it. Our test description would be post a photo on Facebook wall which is visible to friends. Let me put it this way. Wrapping on करते हैं इसको. ठीक है. Now the prerequisite. अब आप देखो, we have to post a photo on Facebook for, and then that photo should be visible to my friends. इसमें मेरे को क्या क्या अलग अलग चीजें मिल रही हैं. First, user should be registered. बताओ प्लीज गो ऑन.
फेसबुक यूजर होना चाहिए, एक एक्टिव अकाउंट होना चाहिए फेसबुक का.
एग्जैक्टली. यूजर शुड बी रजिस्टर्ड ऑन फेसबुक. उसके अलावा और क्या है?
यूजर शुड हैव एन अकाउंट, फेसबुक अकाउंट.
वो हो गया. इफ योर रजिस्टर्ड ऑन अकाउंट हो गया आपका. व्हाट मोर? वन मोर कंडीशन हियर.
वैलिड आईडी पासवर्ड.
दैट इज फाइन. यूजर शुड बी रजिस्टर्ड, तो वो उसका वैलिड यूजर ने पासवर्ड देंगे. टेस्ट डिस्क्रिप्शन के अंदर आंसर है उसका. एक और कंडीशन जो होनी चाहिए, if you're posting a photo on Facebook wall, it should be visible to friends. So on the account that you are using, you should have friends added to that account.
फ्रेंड्स एडेड होना चाहिए अकाउंट में,
है ना. फ्रेंड्स should be added on this account. ठीक है. So these are our prerequisites. Let's assume these are the only prerequisites. Then in the inputs actions, what we are going to do is, first we are saying ki launch Facebook, and you have to give the URL as well, using like something like this, facebook.com. Okay. Then what you are doing is enter. देखो यहाँ पे अपन लॉगिन नहीं टेस्ट कर रहे, यहाँ पे लॉगिन फंक्शनैलिटी टेस्ट नहीं कर रहे. द एग्जांपल दैट वी वर सीइंग ऑन द पीपीटी, we are not going to enter, we are not going to say ki enter a valid username, enter a valid password. We are assuming here that the user is already active on Facebook. ठीक है. तो अपन सिंपल एक लिख सकते हैं, launch Facebook using launch FB using this URL, then login into the application, go to the FB wall. ठीक है. ये थर्ड स्टेप लिखने की भी वैसे ना जरूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज दिस इज समथिंग दैट वुड हैपन ऑटोमेटिकली. यू वुड, when once you log in, you would land on the Facebook wall itself. ठीक है. You can now say कि click on photos या videos button, select a photo and click on upload button. ठीक है. उसके बाद में आप क्या करते हो? Now this actually has become a scenario. What we are doing right now is you are posting from your account, and then you have to log out, then you have to log in as a friend's account and verify whether this photo is visible on that friend's account. So this scenario ban gaya. In this case, the number of steps that we are going to write are going to increase. Okay, now you say select a photo and click on the upload button. यहाँ पे 2 वेरीफाई आ जाएंगे. वेरीफाई दैट the photo is
Successfully
successfully uploaded and
uploaded
visible
to friend.
on your FB wall. आती है ना, अपने खुद को भी तो
हाँ
दिखती है अपनी फोटो, है ना?
हाँ
And then now what we're doing, log out of this account, log in as a friend,
friends.
verify that the
Photo.
photo posted on step, let's say step, what step it was, fourth, is visible on the FB wall. ठीक है, तो अब ये अपने सिनेरियो के हिसाब से दिस टेस्ट केस इज दिस दीज स्टेप्स आर नाउ कंप्लीट. ठीक है, एनी क्वेश्चंस हियर? ऑल फाइन?
Yes, sir.
हाउ डू वी सेंटर इट? हाँ ठीक है, दिस ऑल गुड. कुछ क्वेश्चन, कोई कंफ्यूजन तो नहीं?
No, sir.
ठीक है, नाउ वी हैव टू सेट द प्रायोरिटी ऑफ दिस टेस्ट केस, हाई, मीडियम और लो. व्हाट यू गाइस से, व्हाट शुड बी द प्रायोरिटी, हाई, मीडियम या लो, क्या रहेगा? I would say this is going to be a medium for the reason that it is not hampering our logging in into the Facebook.
Okay.
It definitely would be an issue अगर ये Facebook पे पोस्ट मैं डालता हूँ और मेरे दोस्तों को नहीं दिखता है. So if you have a valid, if you have a strong reason, this can also become high. It definitely will not be a low test case. Medium या high के बीच में it can be anything. And setting a priority again, like how we are discussing right now, is again a thing of the tester's choice, right? Exactly. ठीक है, there would be confusions at point, you would be very very clear कि high है यार, this is going to be like good. ये नहीं होगा तो फट जाएगी एप्लीकेशन. at times you would be like कि ये low है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है यार, थोड़ा सा यहाँ इधर उधर थोड़ा सा alignment issue होगा, तब भी it is okay, the functionality is still working fine, that is low. For the medium you will be a little dicey at times, it could be high, it could be low, it could be medium, which is fine. ठीक है, with experience you would come to know कि क्यों medium, क्यों high, क्यों critical, क्या होगा. ठीक है, the expected result here would be the posted photo should be
Available.
visible, would be a more appropriate word.
Okay.
Posted photo should be visible on the
Facebook wall.
friends
Friends wall.
Facebook wall. ठीक है, which is matching to our test case description. ठीक है, now what would be the actual result?
फोटो शो हो रही है. फोटो शो ऑन फ्रेंड्स वॉल, फेसबुक वॉल.
Okay. आनंद क्या बोलते हो?
Yes, sir. Photo is uploaded successfully and shows in friend wall.
Okay. देखो, actual result अपन नहीं लिखने वाले. The activity that we're doing right now, we are creating the test case. We're not executing the test case. So when we are creating the test case, we don't know how the application is going to behave. This is something that we are just picking up from the requirements and we are creating this test case. Actual result would be when we are going in on our browser, when the developer has completed his coding. At that time, you go to your browser, execute all these steps, see whether the whether the expected result that we have written here in the test case is matching or not with the actual result. तो आप जब execute करोगे, that is the point when you are going to write your actual result. ठीक है, तो अभी अपन actual result नहीं लिखेंगे because we are creating the test case. When you execute your test case, then you will get your actual result, which is what you are going to match with your expected result. Based on that, you will say कि मेरा test case pass है या fail है. अगर fail है तो आप उसका defect log करोगे defect tracking tool में जाके, which you are going to see tomorrow, and then give a defect ID here, a bug ID. ठीक है?
Yes sir.
Okay, so I will show you another thing, and this is going to be an activity for you guys for today. So when like I have been saying this, that the expected result is always drawn out from the requirement. ठीक है, अब I will show you हमारे पास में requirements हैं. So requirements can come to you in any form. It could be in such Excel template, it could be in a document, Word document form, it could be a PDF, it could be user stories if you are using Agile, छोटी छोटी user stories आएंगी. So it could be any form. Requirement जब आपके पास में आई, वो requirement को आप पकड़ोगे, उन requirement के हिसाब से you are going to create your test cases. ठीक है? This particular document is the requirement document that we created for the developers to create the website of QAGENIC technologies. Right? So this, अच्छा, requirements क्या होती हैं? As I was speaking yesterday, requirements are going to only give you 40 to 50% of the defects in the application. So if you are only going to create test cases from this particular list of requirements, you are probably going to miss the majority part of the defects that would be existing, that would be there on the application. That is where you are going to apply your own scenarios. ठीक है? सिर्फ रिक्वायरमेंट पे या सिर्फ रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से लिखे हुए टेस्ट केसेस पे कभी पूरा डिपेंड मत होना. अपनी खुद की अपनी टेस्टिंग करनी पड़ेगी, अपने खुद के सिनेरियोज लगाने पड़ेंगे, अपने खुद के हिसाब से. यू हैव टू think from that user's perspective who is going to use this application and then test your application. That is going to give you the majority number of defects, and the good scenario based defects also comes out from that particular type of testing. Okay, here what you see in this particular requirement document is we have a feature number. Feature number again are unique feature numbers that have been listed here. How do we scroll up here? Top patch. Okay. And then what this feature says that the top links on the website should be home, services, training, courses, contact us, knowledge base. ठीक है? So this is the first requirement कि जो आपको top header पे, menu के ऊपर वाला header पे ये वाले links आपके पास में आने चाहिए. And if you see, this is the only requirement from the menu perspective. On the second test, second feature, you see QAG002, you should on the link of training. This is now कि इस top link के अंदर से on this link of training, action क्या perform कर रहे हैं हम, click कर रहे हैं उसको, load the theme या website. ठीक है? This is only going to happen when you are going to click on the training link. On the third requirement, you should see a carousel of 3 slides. Carousel क्या होता है कि आप जब QAGENIC.com खोलोगे, there would be 3 different PPTs or 3 different slides that would scroll through. तो यहाँ पे क्या specifically अपन को हम बोल रहे हैं कि 3 slides होनी चाहिए. When you're creating your test cases, you have to be very clear, very precise in mentioning कि 3 slides होनी चाहिए. And when you're testing, as a tester, जब आप test करोगे तो आपको ये भी verify करना है कि there are 3 slides only. It should not be 2, it should not be 4, it should not be 1, it should not be 5. 3 बोली है requirement में, तो 3 होनी चाहिए. And here the developer from his side, from his experience, he would say कि 3 से अच्छा है 5 रखो. तो वो क्या करते हैं developers normally, 3 की जगह वो 5 स्लाइड्स ऐड कर देंगे. ठीक है? एंड व्हेन यू एज अ टेस्टर वुड रिपोर्ट दिस डिफेक्ट कि 3 बोली थी यार क्लाइंट ने, उसने वहां पे 5 मेरे को स्लाइड्स दिख रही हैं, द डेवलपर्स will start arguing with you कि no, from my experience I know 5 slides would be better. They would get more option to show more content, more of their progress, all those things. But as a tester, you have to keep sticking to the requirements. If the requirements given by the client says 3 slides, तो 3 ही होनी चाहिए. It should not be 4, it should not be 5. ठीक है? तो डिजाइन क्या कहता है कि आइडेंटिफाई रेलिवेंट डिजाइन पिक फॉर ईच ऑफ दीज स्लाइड्स इन द गिवन कैप्शन, इन द एक सेकेंड, identify relevant design pick for each slide as per the captions given in content. Okay, so what we see here in the captions is that on slide number 1, this is the content that we should be getting. On slide number 2, this is the content that we should be getting. On slide number 3, this is the content. ठीक है? अब ये कंटेंट तो बता दिया, डिजाइन हमने यहाँ पर नहीं स्पेसिफाई किया. But for us, this is going to be our test data for our test case. ठीक है, I am giving you hints so that when you go back, do this assignment of creating your test cases, आप बड़े specifically आप test cases लिख सकते हो. ठीक है, one more thing that I want to tell you here is since you're talking about QAG 003 or for any other requirements that you have, एक requirement पे you can write multiple test cases. It is not कि आपको QAG 003 पे एक ही test case के अंदर सब कुछ लिख देना है. एक रिक्वायरमेंट पे यू कैन राइट वन टेस्ट केस, एक रिक्वायरमेंट पे हो सकता है यू मे एंड अप राइटिंग 100 टेस्ट केसेस, विच इज ऑल फाइन. ठीक है, एंड फॉर दिस पर्टिकुलर एग्जांपल एज अ गुड प्रैक्टिस व्हाट आई वुड सजेस्ट यू, क्योंकि हमारे पास में यहाँ पर फीचर नंबर्स हैं, सो व्हाट आई वुड से कि यूज द सेम फीचर नंबर व्हेन यू आर राइटिंग योर टेस्ट केसेस. लाइक यू कैन राइट QAG 003 एंड अब आपका जो टेस्ट केस आप लिख रहे हो इट कुड बी लाइक 01. अगला आप जब टेस्ट केस लिखोगे तो यू कैन यूज द सेम 02 करके. व्हाट वुड हैपन विद दिस इज कि आपके पास में, क्योंकि रिक्वायरमेंट में आईडीज हैं, आपके पास में आप मैप कर रहे हो वही आईडी को अपने टेस्ट केस के साथ में. सो फॉर यू इट इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी इजी व्हेन यू आर मैपिंग योर रिक्वायरमेंट्स टू योर टेस्ट केसेस. तो अगर आपके पास में आपका मैनेजर, आपका लीड आके आपको पूछता है कि यार आनंद मेरे को ये बताओ कि QAG 006 जो फीचर है, हाउ गुड इज दिस फीचर. ठीक है, उसकी रिपोर्ट अगर आपको निकालनी है तो वेरी इजीली यू कैन गो टू योर टेस्ट केस शीट. आप ये देखोगे कि QAG 006 के अंदर आप फिल्टर कर लोगे कितने टेस्ट केसेस आपने बनाए. आउट ऑफ दीज टेस्ट केसेस 10 टेस्ट केसेस कितने आपके पास थे, कितने आपके फेल थे. डिपेंडिंग अपॉन दैट नंबर यू कैन टेल योर लीड कि जी 10 के अंदर से 9 टेस्ट केसेस पास थे. आई वुड से दैट QAG 006 इज वेरी वेरी गुड, इज इन अ वेरी गुड शेप. ठीक चल रहा है, ये वाला फीचर अच्छा चल रहा है. और इट कुड बी वाइस वर्सा, आप बोल सकते हो कि QAG 006 के अंदर 10 डिफेक्ट थे, 10 टेस्ट केसेस थे, इसमें से 8 तो हमारे टेस्ट केसेस फेल हो रहे हैं. तो ये ठीक से अभी फीचर अपना अपना डेवलप नहीं हुआ है. देयर इज मोर दैट नीड्स टू बी डन ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर फीचर. So this helps you in mapping if you are using the same number between your requirements and your test cases, and then when you are mapping your defect IDs here. तो यहाँ पे अगर आप जीरा ID को डालते हो तो it could be like FB 9341 कुछ भी डाल सकते हो. ठीक है, तो यहाँ से आप ये भी बोल सकते हो कि मेरे पास में QAG 003 पे जो सेकेंड वाला टेस्ट केस था, सिंस दिस वाज अ फेल्ड टेस्ट केस, बोल पूछ रहा हूँ, लिख पूछ रहा हूँ, दिस वाज अ फेल्ड टेस्ट केस, दिस इज द डिफेक्ट दैट आई रिपोर्टेड. आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, देखो व्हाट वी आर डूइंग राइट नाउ इज वी आर मेकिंग अ ट्रेसेबिलिटी मैट्रिक्स बिटवीन रिक्वायरमेंट, टेस्ट केसेस एंड डिफेक्ट्स. ठीक है, सो इफ आवर रिक्वायरमेंट इज numbered as QAG 003, my test case would be numbered as QAG 003 underscore 01. And if this test case is a failed test case, so I would be logging a defect, and for that I would have a bug ID, let's say FB 1234. Okay, so what you can do is you can do a tracking, you can do a mapping from the requirements to the test cases to the defects, which is known as a forward traceability. This is known as a forward traceability. कुछ होगा, I could be wrong with the spelling. ठीक है, if you are on the defect tracking tool, आप ये देखते हो कि अच्छा ये वाला डिफेक्ट जो लॉग्ड है कौन से रिक्वायरमेंट के लिए लॉग्ड है. when you start from the defect, do a reverse mapping. This is known as a reverse traceability. ठीक है, गेटिंग माय पॉइंट हियर. ठीक है, अगर आप ये देखो, अब लेट्स टेक अनदर एग्जांपल हियर of not following this particular traceability. So what let's say key is, this is our requirement ID QAG003. When we start writing our test cases, we give some unique number to our test cases. Let's say क्योंकि मैं लिख रहा हूं तो I will say my initials and 4321 4321 4321 मैं बोलता हूँ, ठीक है. And then when I am logging a defect, I am putting something else. Let's say social media का defect number 1234. ठीक है. It becomes very hard for me to do this traceability. If somebody comes to me and tells me कि QAG 003 पे बताना यार कितने test cases थे, I don't have that mapping with me. I have to probably go and do a more search कि मतलब मैं टेक्स्ट वाला सर्च कर रहा हूँ देखने के लिए कि अच्छा यार ये फंक्शनैलिटी कौन सी थी, उस पर कितने टेस्ट केस मैंने लिखे, बिकॉज आई डोंट हैव द सेम मैपिंग फॉलोड हियर लाइक व्हाट वी हैड हियर. तो इट बिकम्स इजी. यहाँ पे अगर आप इस तरीके से अलग तरीके से कुछ फॉलो करोगे तो you would be able to find it, but it is going to be very tough. For one requirement it is fine. If your manager, if your lead comes in and tells you कि मेरे को QAG 003 से लेके QAG 00 QAG 100 तक मेरे को इन सारी रिक्वायरमेंट्स की आप मेरे को रिपोर्ट निकाल कर दो, आपका दिन बर्बाद है. मतलब मेकिंग दीज रिपोर्ट्स is going to be very hectic, right? Okay, coming back to the topic of test cases. So this is how you write a test case. This is a template that you use to write a test case. And for our today's activity, I am going to provide you guys with this requirement sheet. I would not say कि सारे requirements पे आप test cases लिखो. Something is happening with this sheet यार. ये सब top पर नहीं आता यार. मेरा scroll मेरा हाथ नहीं हटा, ठीक है. I don't want you to write test cases on all the requirements. कोई भी requirement आप यहाँ पे pick करो. Give it a try. I want you guys to get your hands dirty. And in the similar way जो अपन ने कल किया था, write these test cases and send those to me by end of the day today. Tomorrow morning we will first review these test cases. ठीक है. ट्राई करो ज्यादा से ज्यादा लिखने के लिए, ज्यादा आपकी प्रैक्टिस होगी, ज्यादा आपको पता चलेगा कि मैं कहाँ गलतियां कर रहा हूँ. ठीक है. कम से कम 10 टेस्ट केस लिख कर देखो.
Okay.
ठीक है. एनी क्वेश्चंस ऑन द टेस्ट केसेस?
No, sir.
Coming back, I guess then that is it that I wanted to show you guys today on the test cases side of it. The template, I would give you the requirement as well, and on the assignment you have to write the test cases once. Give it an attempt today. All right then guys, I think then that is it. Today we are closing it 10 minutes early than the scheduled time.
हाँ सर, ये इसकी जो रिकॉर्डिंग्स है वो कैसे अवेलेबल हो पाएगी?
You need the recordings, so I can give you those recordings. वैसे why do you need these recordings?
सर एक्चुअली मुझे थोड़ा सा आज का इंटरफेरेंस कुछ ज्यादा था घर में, इस वजह से थोड़ा सा
No
मुझे
problem.
समझ आना.
I'll give those recordings. I'll publish them somewhere. I'll provide you with the recordings.
Okay, thank you sir.
Any questions from today's session? Anand, Shubham?
No, sir.
Clear है ना? Because
Yes.
when you are going to be assigned to a team, when you're going to work as a QA engineer, this is going to be one of those most important activities that you're going to perform. Test cases लिखना. And test cases लिखना is an art. Okay, at a given day, you probably may be writing only 10 test cases. जब आप नए हो इंडस्ट्री के अंदर. बाद में when you are more experienced ना, मैं अगर अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बात करूं कि आई हैव इवन रिटन लाइक 150 to 200 टेस्ट केसेस इन वन सिंगल डे. व्हेन यू नो कि आपके पास में आपको क्या लिखना है. And what happens, one of the again the guru mantras that I want to share is once you have written test cases for one application, let's say for the login feature, you would know, always you would know कि login feature पे ये 8 से 10 टेस्ट केस तो हमेशा लिखने ही लिखने हैं. और जब आपने 3-4 एप्लीकेशंस पे लिख लिए टेस्ट केसेस, यू विल हैव द रिपोजिटरी फॉर द अर्लियर एप्लीकेशंस. हाँ, आपने टेस्ट केसेस लिखे. So rather than you writing fresh test cases for this fourth application, let's say, you are going to pick up test cases from your previously written, you are going to pick up test cases for the previous application where you have written your test cases for the login feature. वही उठाओगे आप, उनको modify करोगे, and you are done. You will not be writing test cases again from scratch. So this is how you would do smart work, not hard work. और ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम आपको पता चल जाएगा कि अच्छा यहाँ पर ज्यादा इश्यूज मिलते हैं, यहाँ ज्यादा डिफेक्ट्स मिलते हैं, तो मैं पहले यहाँ पर ये वाले टेस्ट केसेस पकड़ता हूँ. And while you're writing your test cases, when you're writing the test cases right from the requirements, you are writing requirement based test cases, which is known as RBTs. ठीक है. Ideally speaking, you would not be able to write scenario based test cases when you are following the requirements. But the Guru mantra here again is the same thing that I was repeating, that I was saying yesterday. Understand your application, understand the requirements very well. अगर आपको वो समझ में आ गई, so at the time of writing your requirement based test cases, you can also start thinking of the scenarios and add your scenario based test cases to the document right there itself. At the time of writing the RBTs, you can also write SBTs. जहां पे आपके पास में भी कोड नहीं है, आपके पास में कोई URL नहीं है, what you only have is the requirement document. वो रिक्वायरमेंट पढ़ोगे, अगर आपको एप्लीकेशन का फ्लो समझ में आ गया एंड टू एंड, क्या कहाँ से क्या हो रहा है, यू कैन स्टार्ट थिंकिंग फ्रॉम दैट एंड यूजर्स पर्सपेक्टिव. और आप सिनेरियो सोच सकते हो, सिनेरियोस के हिसाब से आप टेस्ट केसेस लिख सकते हो. सो दैट इज अ वेरी गुड थिंग इफ यू कैन स्टार्ट डूइंग दैट, इफ यू स्टार्ट डूइंग दैट. ठीक है. I gave this guru mantra for a reason that you can even apply to your today's assignment. I would not give more hint यहाँ पे. अपने आप सोचो, you have all the material here. आपके पास में रिक्वायरमेंट में आपको दूंगा, आपको टेस्ट केस टेम्पलेट में आपको दूंगा, as well as this गुरु मंत्रा that you have. अब कल की असाइनमेंट का क्या रिजल्ट है वो डिपेंड करेगा कि how you were able to understand this particular hint that I am giving you through this गुरु मंत्रा. ठीक है. सोचो थोड़ा सा, माइंड सेट, ओपन अप योर माइंड, सोचो.
ओके सर.
ठीक है. ऑल गुड देन, एंजॉय योर संडे, and I would be sharing these documents with you over the WhatsApp channel that we have created, and I hope you guys to revert back by end of the day today.
Sure,
Try
sir.
आज करो, कल सुबह दोगे तो I would not get that much time to review your test cases. आज दे दो तो कल सुबह अपन we can go over these very quickly then.
Okay.
Okay, and tomorrow we will be talking about what is a defect, how we log a defect. You will see the practical version of logging a defect in a defect tracking tool. Jira अपन use करेंगे. ठीक है. All right then, Anand. All right, Shubham. Thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy
Thank you,
the
sir.
Sunday.
Thank you,
Bye
sir.
bye.